Hey everybody, Coach Sean, the Rip Grandpa, and inside this video, I'm going to share the easiest, simplest fat loss formula ever. A 5-letter acronym that I personally use to keep my abs for over a decade straight. And once you understand these 5 letters, you'll never have to resort to some type of shortcut, quick fix, diet pill, or peptide ever again. Now, I'm talking about CWESP. It's like going on a quest. It's just spelled differently. So C is calorie deficit, W is adequate water, E is adequate exercise, S is adequate sleep, and P is adequate protein. These are the 5 levers you must pull if you want to build a lifestyle of leanness. Now, before I dive deeper into each one of these letters, I want to share 7 other acronyms with you that will help you build long-term habits to live a lean, healthy life. And the reason I love acronyms so much is because it makes it easy to remember things. So the first acronym I want to share with you is DIET. The word diet. And so every time you go to diet, I want you to drop the T. And I want you to remember that that's what's left and that's what's going to happen. Because research shows over and over again now that if you follow some type of crash diet, I don't care if it's carnivore, if it's keto, if it's paleo, if it's Mediterranean, if it's your macros, Whole30, whatever it is, there is a 94% chance you're going to gain all or more of your weight back. And it's just what the research shows, because your body's always trying to achieve homeostasis. This is why I love my Rip Grandpa carb cycling, because it can be used as a lifestyle. So every time you go to diet, drop that T and remember what's left and use a lifestyle instead. The second acronym I want to share with you is the 6 F's. And the reason I want to share the 6 F's is because it starts with the F of fitness. See, focused fitness equals stronger faith, family, friends, finances, and future. So always remember that fitness is the anchor to make you a better human in any other area of your life. So if you want to be stronger or more focused spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, it all starts with fitness. So always remember focused fitness, stronger faith, family, friends, finances, and your future. The next acronym I want to share with you is BS. See, it's all about your BS. And it's not the BS you probably think I'm talking about. I'm talking about your belief system. And so what I'll do is I'll pop up a couple images up here and share 2 quick examples about your belief system, because it's a Henry Ford cliche, but whether you believe it or not, you're going to be right. And so the milkshake study is probably the best example of BS, the belief system. They gave 2 groups of dieters a 360 calorie milkshake. One group they told it was over 500 calories and it was a fattening milkshake. The other group they told it was a diet shake that was 160 calories. They gave them both labels to read after they drank the shake. They took blood samples at the 30, 60, and 90-minute mark. And the group that thought it was a diet shake released almost double the ghrelin in their blood. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone. So because in their head, their BS, their belief system, thought it was a diet shake, their body responded accordingly and release the hormones that make them want to eat more. And then the second example I'll share about your belief system and how it all starts with whether you believe it or not is the maid study. So they took 2 groups of maids and they simply informed one group that their job was healthy for them, that every day when they cleaned hotel rooms, it met the Surgeon General's requirement for exercise. The other group was uninformed, and they went back 12 weeks later, and sure enough, the group that was simply informed and believed had the right BS inside their head that their job was good for them every day, lost more weight, and had better health markers across the board. Don't forget, it's all about your BS, your belief system. The next acronym I want to share with you is the victim mentality acronym, which I call PLOM disease, P-L-O-M. See, I refuse to work with clients who have PLOM disease. Poor little old me. See, if it is to be, it's up to me. We must take personal responsibility for our life. Whether it's health and fitness or any other area, do not suffer from PLOM disease or you're never going to achieve your goals in any area of your life. The next acronym is to get your meds in every single meal. Your meds, like medicine, but I'm talking about meat, eggs, dairy, and seafood. Because at the end of the day, if you're sitting down to eat a meal and you don't have meat, eggs, dairy, or seafood, I highly recommend you lean into protein powder to hit your mark. Because if you took you and your twin, and this hits on the P of CWESP, take you and your twin, you burned the same amount of calories, you ate the same amount of calories, you had the same exercise plan every single day, but your twin simply took some of their carbs and their fats and replaced it with protein, and you didn't, your twin would kick your ass. Your twin would lose more weight. Your twin would have less hunger and cravings. Your twin would have a faster metabolism, would lose less muscle, gain more muscle, and experience less rebound weight gain. So always get your meds in every meal: meat, eggs, dairy, seafood. The next one is PVC pipe method. And so this applies to high carb meals. So every time you sit down to eat a meal that's higher in carbs, always think PVC pipe and eat your food in that order. Eat your protein, your veggies, then eat your carbs. Now, this is not going to be like a game changer by any means, but it is a little hinge that can move a big door, because research shows when you use the PVC pipe method and you eat your food in that order, in the post-workout window, blood glucose is going to be lower. In fact, an hour later when they tested blood work, insulin was still stabilized lower than the group who ate their carbs first. Now, why is this so important? Well, number one, you won't be as tired after the high carb meal, but the most important aspect is keeping insulin stable will allow your body to potentially store less fat, because in the presence of higher insulin, it blocks lipolysis, which is fat loss. So at the end of the day, it's in your best interest to eat your protein, your veggies, then your carbs, because you will minimize potential fat storage from those higher carb meals. Now, the next one is the last one, called LOA, Law of Association. This is more of a mental aspect, and it's especially important to people who are first starting their fitness or their weight loss journey. You see, when you first start, it's going to suck. And so the law of association is you are going to associate meal prepping, the pain and suffering of working out, the time consumption of it all, with suckness. It's going to be pain and it's going to be suffering at first. And that's why I have a shirt that says embrace the suck, because it takes about 2 to 3 weeks before the law of association shifts. And now your association goes from pain and suffering to the shift that takes place mentally, physically, hormonally, metabolically. The benefits start affecting you, your sleep, the way you communicate with others, the way it leaks over into other areas of your life, the way you become more confident. And now that law of association goes from suckness or pain and suffering to greatness. And so just realize that the law of association is always at play, especially the first couple of weeks when you're starting your plan, and then you're going to make that shift, and now you're going to associate it with all the great things that are happening to your life. And this is how long-term habits are built. Now, back to Quest. Let's quickly cover these. So first of all, it's the law of thermodynamics. You must burn off more than you consume at least 5 or 6 days per week. If you keep your body in a calorie deficit 7 days a week for weeks on end, it can be a recipe for disaster for your metabolism and your hormones, and you'll probably end up being like the Biggest Loser contestants who gain all or more of their weight back after the show. And then when they did blood work on them, they showed that their leptin levels a year later were still at 0. So this is the benefits of extreme dieting. There is none. Not only that, it's not sustainable. You can't adhere to it. So the answer to this, in my opinion, as a lifestyle, is to just focus on 5 or 6 days of the week being in a deficit and intentionally go into a surplus or be at maintenance 1 or 2 days per week. Now, the way that I handle my deficit is Monday through Friday. I use a carb deplete day on my cardio days, and I'm in an aggressive calorie deficit for a fat burning day. On weight training days, I use a carb down day where I'm in a slight deficit, and it's a body recomp, muscle building, fat burning day. I do that Monday through Friday, and when I do this, because I am in a slighter aggressive deficit those 5 days, I know that as the week goes on, my BMR, my basal metabolic rate, is slowing down. This is called metabolic adaptation or metabolic slowdown. As it slows down, it suppresses thyroid and leptin hormones. So it can end up being a windfall if you do it week after week after week. Well, the solution is to simply carb up on the weekends. By carbing up on the weekends and putting your body at maintenance or a slight surplus, you get a couple benefits. Psychologically, you know you have a reward coming, so it makes you more focused during the week because you know you can eat your carbs every weekend. So this helps with adherence and sustainability. Physically, because your metabolism is slowing down, the influx of calories and carbs that you bring into your plan on the weekends boost metabolic rate through DIT, diet-induced thermogenesis, also known as TEF, the thermic effect of food. The extra calories is going to boost metabolism back up, and the extra glucose from those carbs is also going to boost back up leptin and thyroid hormones. And most people don't realize thyroid hormones themselves are a glycoprotein. So a glycoprotein means glucose. So your body needs glucose to convert T4 to T3 in the liver. T3 hormones are the active thyroid hormones your body's cells can receive and use. And of course, thyroid hormones do communicate with leptin hormones, and carbohydrate overfeeding does spike back up leptin levels. So by having a higher carb weekend, Now, not only can you adhere and sustain this plan long term, you prevent the metabolic slowdown and adaptation and hormonal decline that happens when you're on a normal diet. Now, moving on to the next letter, which is W, which is water. Simple here, guys. Remember, the more water you give your body, the less it's going to hold on to. People who drink water before meals eat less and lose more weight. People who drink adequate water live longer, and the benefits go on and on and on. All the metabolic processes that take place with your body and your brain take place by the transport of fresh, clean water. I shoot for 100 ounces a day. I think this is a great number to shoot for the average person to get all the benefits of adequate hydration. If you want to get a little more granular, take half your body weight, and that's the number of ounces minimum you should consume on a daily basis. Now, the next letter up on the acronym CWESP is E for exercise. And this is where most people screw it up, because to this day, people are still brainwashed to think that more cardio or more ab routines is what's going to get them a six-pack. And the reality is that you should prioritize strength training and weight training first and foremost over anything else. And here's why. Number one, it takes 22,000 crunches just to burn 1 measly pound of fat. So all you're doing is you're building a muscle and toning a muscle underneath the goo that you want to burn off through QUESP, CWESP. Number two, it takes almost an hour of cardio itself just to burn a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So from a weight loss perspective, you might as well skip the sandwich. Now, I'm not saying these exercises aren't healthy or beneficial or you shouldn't do them. What I am saying is prioritizing strength training and weight training first before you dive in to spend all this time and energy with cardio and ab routines, because you're going to get way more bang for your buck. And the reason why is because of our TDEE, our total daily energy expenditure. So if you look at a pie chart, and unless you're an endurance athlete, you're only going to burn about 5 to 10% of your daily calories with cardio. And so muscle tissue itself, because it's so metabolically active, is going to increase your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, much more than cardio. And so you're much better off investing your time and energy into weight training to gain muscle, because that is what's going to increase your total daily energy expenditure on a daily basis, ongoing, and give you the most bang for your buck and the most ROI on your body. Now, with that being said, most people don't know how to weight train the right way. And the way that I design my personal workouts for our high performing men and women and inside my courses is very strategic. So I use multiple rep ranges. So we use lower rep ranges with longer rest periods early in the workout to stimulate hypertrophy and gain muscle. Then as the workout goes on, we increase the rep ranges 10 to 12 to 15, all the way up to 20 and 25 as rest periods come down. I call this progressive rest reduction. And by doing this strategically, the workout becomes a body recomp workout. So we're building muscle and burning fat at the same time. Now, where the magic really happens is the anti-aging effect that this creates. Because research shows when workouts are done in this fashion, you will get acute releases in growth hormone, testosterone, and adrenaline. Now, all three of these hormones are very powerful. It's not extended releases, but it is acute. And if you're doing this 4 times a week, like I recommend, that little hinges over time could move big doors. Now, the most powerful aspect is when we get this burn in our muscle tissue, that lactic acid burn. That's your body producing something called lactate. Now, science has shown that this has a very profound effect on the heart and the brain. They used to think it was a waste product. Now they know this lactate is an energy source that travels directly to the brain, crosses the blood-brain barrier, travels directly to the heart, enters the heart, and creates something called mitochondrial biogenesis. So it sheds off old mitochondria, creating new mitochondria, and this takes place through something called the lactate shuttle. Now, what about cardio? Where does this come in? Well, I recommend cardio 3 or 4 times per week. I recommend sit, sprint intensity training at least once or twice a week, which is a lower duration sprints, 20 to 30 seconds max. We're entering what's called the creatine phosphate system, this high intensity anaerobic system, very hormonal, especially if you do it in a fasted state. Then I recommend threshold HIIT, which is longer duration intervals. So now we're working the second level of the anaerobic system. Then I also recommend moderate amounts of low intensity steady state cardio, LISS, because that is the aerobic work that we're doing. So now we're working both of our anaerobic systems in our aerobic system. We start combining this with my hormone boosting resistance training protocols that I just explained. Now we get carb cycling working with that. And all 3 of these things working together create a synergistic compounding effect that becomes 10 times more powerful than the individual parts alone. The next letter on the acronym, QUESP, is S for sleep. Pretty common sense nowadays. You want to try to go to bed and wake up at close to the same time 7 days a week. If you want to sleep in a little bit on the weekends, great. But just know if you don't get at least 7+ hours, it's going to negatively impact every area of your life, especially your health, recovery, energy, focus, fat loss, lifespan. Hormonally, it can be a nightmare for our cortisol, our insulin, our growth hormone, our testosterone, our ghrelin, and our leptin levels are all affected by getting quality sleep. So let's talk about a quick checklist that you can use before you go to bed to enhance your sleep quality. The first thing that I do with my high performing clients who have struggles sleeping is on the carb down days and the carb up days, I move their starch or a fruit to dinner time because research shows that this will suppress cortisol. And of course, this will enhance the production of melatonin and serotonin before sleep. Now, you can experiment with supplementing with melatonin, but I don't recommend it. Long-term research or studies are now showing that it can actually shut down your natural production of serotonin. So it's not something I recommend. And instead, trying to move that glucose-based carb to dinner time can potentially help you induce a deeper sleep. Now, there's a couple obvious other things that you can do. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I go to bed and my mind will be racing. So I do a brain dump. I make sure that everything is in my head is on paper for the next day by planning my next day. So I'm not going to bed thinking about stuff or worried about if I'm going to remember in the morning. I lay out my gym clothes and my water bottle and my supplements for the morning because if I wake up in a reactionary mode, I started my day off in wasting my willpower. And not only that, I think about that stuff before I go to bed. Oh, well, I got to remember in the morning, I got to do this. So you want to get that stuff out of the way. Dump it out of your brain. Plan and pack your next morning. And it'll save you an hour when you wake up. And it's going to allow you to relax a little bit. Now, digital detox, right? Blue blockers or avoiding screens an hour before bed. Shading your bedroom really, really dark and not allowing light into your bedroom. Eye patches can work. Putting eye goggles on. And then also another thing that can really help people sleep is nasal breathing. So if you struggle relaxing before you go to bed, just focus on breathing in and out of your nose only and do some nasal breathing. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system to help us relax. And then, of course, there's dozens of supplements that can potentially help with sleep. It's a case-by-case experimental basis, and I'm not going to dive into a scientific rabbit hole. Just know we want to go to bed and try to wake up at the same time every single day and then implement some of these strategies to improve our overall quality of sleep. So the last letter on our quest to get lean for life is P for protein, arguably the most important letter, which is why I did the twin analogy earlier about getting your meds, meat, eggs, dairy, and seafood in every single meal. And if you don't have meds, that's when I would have a protein shake on the side. And there are several reasons why, and dozens of research studies backing up why high protein dieters always win the weight loss race. So the first thing I do with my high level guys and girls is I put them on a higher protein intake right away. I increase their protein in every single meal because I know it's going to boost their metabolism through TEF, or the thermic effect of food, because just the act of digesting protein increases our metabolic rate higher than when we digest fats and carbohydrates because it creates a higher DIT, or diet-induced thermogenesis. Also, one of the number one side effects of dieting is a slower metabolism and muscle loss. And protein is going to prevent both of those things because it's the only macro that not only speeds up metabolic rate, it also prevents muscle loss and promotes muscle gain because it's a building block macronutrient, unlike fats and carbohydrates, where are more energy and storage units, making them much easier to store as fat or create a fat storing environment. It's very hard and difficult to store protein as fat. That's why when you see studies where they take two groups of dieters and they give one group 500 to 800 more calories per day, but those calories are solely from protein, they'll lose just as much weight and probably gain more muscle and lose less muscle than the other group. And there's multiple studies backing this up. So never underestimate the power of protein. If you exercise, you want 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight on a daily basis. If you happen to be sedentary, get at least 0.6 grams per pound of your goal body weight on a daily basis. I always tell sedentary people, err on the margin of going higher. Try to shoot for 0.7 at least, because again, it's very hard to store protein as fat. And it just shows side-by-side studies that dieters who eat more protein are also just going to eat less calories in general because it is the most satiating nutrient. So never underestimate the power of protein, and make sure you get your meds in every meal. So my hope and prayer is you really got something out of this video. If you did, do me a favor, share it and like it. Drop a comment below to share the love. And then just always remember, I have so many mechanisms that I share on this channel that I'm really biased to. I mean, we're talking about meal timing, pairing your foods properly, talking about strategic carb timing and strategic high carb meals and cheat meals on the weekends to boost hormones, fasted versus fed exercise, pre and post workout nutrition. I could go on and on and on about all these mechanisms, but at the end of the day, if you don't have CWESP in place, your outcome will not change. I could give you all the mechanisms in the world, but you have to have a calorie deficit. You have to have adequate water, right? You have to have strategic exercise, sleep, and protein. So thanks for watching this. God bless and keep going strong.